Every week there's another headline about AI taking over the world, stealing our jobs or secretly plotting our downfall. But let's pause for a second. Is AI really intelligent? Or are we just projecting our fears into some very clever math? What we need is a reality check. Sci-fi literature and Hollywood love extremes. AI is either our savior or our doom. Think Terminator, Ex Machina, or I Am Mother. The truth? We're not even close to Wall-E. What we actually have is called narrow AI. It's great at very specific tasks like translating languages, generating text, or beating us at chess. But AGI, the sci-fi version that can think and reason like a human, that's still fantasy. Now, when we say AI today, we usually mean large language models. Think of them as extremely sophisticated autocomplete engines. They can write, analyze, summarize, even code. It looks like magic, but really they take your input, fill in the blanks, and spit out a result. Sometimes brilliant, sometimes nonsense. They learn from massive data sets, books, articles, code, images. The bigger and more diverse the data, the more capable the model. But even the best models have gaps. They struggle in specialized domains. They trip on trivial questions. And the worst part? They'll answer with absolute confidence, even when completely wrong. If a friend did that, you'd question his sanity. And speaking of mental capabilities, how do we even define intelligence? For humans, we rely on things like IQ tests, memory, problem solving, and creativity. Not perfect, but it gives us a baseline. For AI, we use benchmarks. A famous one is MMLU, Massive Multitask Language Understanding. It tests knowledge across 57 subjects, from elementary math to professional law. Models that score above 85% are basically performing at a human expert level. Impressive. But is that intelligence? Not really. AI doesn't think. It processes patterns at scale and spits out results. You could call it computational intelligence, but it's still not the same as human understanding. So let's peek inside this so-called artificial brain. Neural networks sound biological, but they are not actual neurons, but rather math. Imagine thousands of adjustable knobs. Turn them the right way and the system starts to recognize patterns. Feed it millions of cat photos and it learns to spot cats. Feed it fewer and it may confuse a cat for a cow. Now here's the catch. The more data we feed it, the bigger the model grows. Bigger models mean massive training costs, insane hardware needs, and electricity bills through the roof. That's why AI companies need to make all sorts of compromises, and even the most popular models still produce random nonsense at times. And then there's the black box problem. These systems are so complex that even the engineers who build them can't always explain what's happening inside and why they produced a particular answer. Now, this design, pattern recognition at scale, gives AI an unfair advantage over humans at things we find hard, like spotting tumors in scans, analyzing financial trends, or solving protein structures. But everyday reasoning, that's where it struggles, and precisely because of the way it works. For instance, if you ask ChatGPT, why shouldn't you put your phone in the microwave? ChatGPT or any LLM will give you a convincing explanation about radiation, circuits, and house fires. Sounds smart, right? But here's the thing, it doesn't know why. It has no lived experience, no intuition, no memory of ruining its kitchen. What it does have is access to a massive amount of text where people explained why microwaving electronics is a terrible idea. So when you ask ChatGPT, Grok or Claude, they don't reason it out from first principles. Instead, these models recognize the pattern of the question, retrieve relevant associations from their training, and reconstruct an answer that sounds like reasoning. And what about creativity? AI can remix and reassemble existing patterns, but genuine originality, empathy, emotional depth, that still belongs to us. Which brings us to the ethical side. Should we let a non-sentient tool make life and death decisions? So what's next? In the next couple of years, expect faster models, better multi-modal systems that can handle text, images, and video all at once, and AI that feels even more human-like in conversation. But through AGI, a machine that really understands, reasons, maybe even feels? Hard to imagine. It may fake it, but does that count as real AGI? Here's how I see it. AI is a tool, not a new species. If we treat it as a smart extension of our capabilities, we'll get the best out of it. But if we worship it like a god or demonize it as the devil, we risk building the worst cult humanity has ever seen. So, is AI truly intelligent? Not in the way we are. It's pattern recognition on steroids, not sentience. Alright, that's it for today. I need to get back to founding my own AI cult. Like and subscribe, and remember, thou shalt not microwave thy phone.